I kind of felt at that moment that I had this calling to start a school in the Woodlands. So for 10 years, I would tell people, I'm going to start a school in the Woodlands.
I'm so excited about this. This is so much fun. We're here at Marina, so we'll be able to go through all the memorabilia and the archive. It'll be great.
Who's here?
Look who's here! Look who's here!
Oh, it's good to see you.
You made it. Good to see you too.
Elaine, my first hire, the first year at Cooper School. This is Cooper.
This is Callie.
Hi, Callie. Good to see you. Give me a little hug. Good to see you. And that's Cooper, named after the John Cooper School. I'm so excited about this day because I've had these archives for 30 plus years and giving them back to the John Cooper School.
So I'm the founding head of the John Cooper School, arriving in September of 1987 to get the school open for its formal opening of September 6, 1988. My history goes back 10 years before the school started. I had been director of admissions at Rice University, and prior to that, associate admissions director, and had visited 400 of the best public and private schools in the country. And one day, I'm driving around Waxahachie, Texas, and I think, wouldn't it be really neat to start a school that had the best characteristics of the schools I'd seen? The Exeters, the John Burroughs School, the Chicago Lab School, and San Francisco Day School, San Francisco University High School. I kind of felt at that moment that I had this calling to start a school in the Woodlands. So for 10 years, I would tell people, I'm going to start a school in the Woodlands. I went back to Stanford and worked on my doctorate. I intended to just get a master's, but I got a fellowship and thought, what the heck, I'll just keep studying. And specifically took classes that would apply to being head of a school, accounting, marketing, school law, etc. Along the way, John Cooper reached out to me to join the steering committee for a new school in the Woodlands called the Woodlands School, which is what it was called at the groundbreaking we had in September of 1987. He recognized kind of a force of nature in my character. So he got me involved in the steering committee. This was 4 years before the school opened. And in that process, I helped write all of the original documents, that brochure that was the School for the Future. George Mitchell is my uncle. John Cooper had met my uncle when he talked about sustainability at the Kincaid School. And John was so impressed with what he had to say that when he retired from Kincaid after 27 years, he moved to the Woodlands. And George Mitchell, having a keen eye for talent, enlisted John to start a private school in the Woodlands. His first 6 children went to public schools. His last 4 went to St. John's School. So he understood the difference between a pretty good public school and a really good college preparatory school. The Woodridge School was the school that John and a group of parents started. And when I arrived, it had maybe 120 kids. So during that period, I would go and present to the Woodridge School parents that we were starting a new school that was going to have these very high academic standards, first-rate college prep school. He started that school, but at the same time, he started the steering committee, which consisted of some of the best and brightest that he could find in the Woodlands. It included lawyers, finance people, and of course the Woodlands Corporation was by then pretty involved and had at least a couple of members on that first steering committee. The 40 acres had been already committed to the school in the wonderful master plan for the Woodlands. So that was the process that was going on at the same time that I was working on my my process of developing the skills to be able to lead a school and learning from all the best of the schools in the country. I had seen the original plans for the Woodlands, and I saw a little light for an independent school. I wrote off to the 50 best schools I had visited and got all of their documents, everything, from their curriculum, instruction, marketing materials, everything. I had this huge file in my office at Stanford, and I went through it faithfully. And that's how we came up with the original brochure, The School for the Future, some of the original concept of combining progressive with traditional education philosophy, and so on and so forth. We had to build a 40,000 square foot building. They hadn't even started building it until December. We had to hire all the faculty. The budget was based on 170 students. We had to develop all the policies, get all the furniture, fixtures, equipment, everything. So that first year was truly the hardest year of my life. We didn't order the textbooks until the faculty arrived. It was a gamble, but I was determined to have them completely engaged in selecting the curriculum. Completely engaged. We placed orders, and some of it arrived on time to start school. Some of it did not quite arrive on time, and we, made do, as faculty do. The motto of the school has an interesting history. We need to create a school where children's curiosity remains intact for their entire schooling. I would drive to the school campus and pass that dragon in the lake all the time. I said, well, you know what? Here's the cardinals, and what about the dragons and maybe something else? And so the smaller group said, yeah, the dragons is a great idea. The first year in 1987, before we opened, our fundraising event was a bake sale. And then the next year, I think we did a little gala, maybe a little bitty auction, might have made $30,000. And it just got better and better. So our first capital campaign had the logo on it, and it's 3 or 4 question marks going into exclamation points with from curiosity to wisdom. And it's really very sophisticated and very, very cool. The first logo for the school was my favorite. It was designed by Chris Hill, who was one of the most famous designers in Houston. And then Joe Broccoli came to Cooper School. He stayed for a long, long time. He and some of the other faculty who'd been to more traditional prep schools back east, they wanted a crest. And in the crest, it has the original facade of the building as part of the crest. And then I think there's a dragon in there. And then what's the other thing?
A torch with a light.
Oh yeah, that's so traditional. They gotta have the torch with the light, the torch bearer light. And when we got into high school, and the high school kids, they wanted more of a crest. And I think that's perfect. And that's how things evolved. School colors started out as burgundy and navy blue. And we had uniforms that, again, a parent committee helped us pick out the ones from the uniform store. So, the little girls had their jumpers, the cute little jumpers. We insisted on uniforms starting out. And the parents helped pick out the uniforms. So now we go look through some of these boxes, and I'm not sure at all what's in these boxes. They've been stored in various places ever since I walked out of the school July 31st, 1995. I just found the bell in my garage. And I'm not sure if this is the original one or if we bought a replica, but it's got a really good sound. I think we kept this at the school and would ring it for various occasions.
Yeah.
So I bequeath the bell to you. This was the Woodlands School before, it was the Woodlands School before it was the John Cooper School. And this is the history, the plans, the school philosophy and goals, which we wrote, the missions policy. Oh my gosh.
All right,
Oh,
this.
here we go.
I should not have this here.
But we're so glad you do.
Okay, so the first design, I'm 34 years old. I come back from Stanford, and I had been director of admissions, but I hadn't been a department chair or some academic dean. But I had good taste. So they showed me the design, the first design of the school done by, I think the firm was McKittrick, and it looked like a shopping mall. So I told them, it looks like a shopping mall. Would you mind if I went and raised $10,000 and had someone redesign the front facade? So they said, fine, not believing that I could do it. So this is the original drawing of the front facade of the John Cooper School as redone by an architect who'd worked for Baylor College of Medicine named David Schooler. I don't know if his name is on here, but this is it.
That's awesome.
So this needs definitely to go back to the archives. So I would bequeath this to Callie. I should never have kept it this long.
But we're so glad you did.
One thing that people don't realize is when you're starting a school, you make 1,000 decisions. Thousands of little decisions that have an impact for many years to come. Oh, that's definitely.
That's the original
cheerleaders.
So you have one of those uniforms, right?
Oh my gosh, that's the original cheerleaders.
Look at that.
Oh my gosh. The John Cooper School
That's
Handbook and Student Roster. Look at that.
That's awesome.
1989 to 90. That's year 2. Oh my gosh.
Look at that.
This is the original master plan for the campus.
There it
Ding,
is in
ding,
color.
ding. There it is in color. Yes, I knew we had it somewhere. So this was the master plan that we did in probably about 1990, 91. This is the very first brochure that was created when there was just a steering committee. And I was working on my PhD at Stanford and wrote this. You know whose handwriting that is? It's John Cooper's. To find that first brochure with John Cooper's handwriting,
That is a treasure.
oh, it makes me almost cry. John Cooper had practicing artists at the Kincaid School. So it was his idea to have practicing artists at the John Cooper School. And so we were fortunate enough to attract Dale and Barbara, who were our first art teachers. And then we were fortunate enough to get some funding to build that art barn. I think Cynthia Mitchell helped a little bit with that because she was very interested in art. And they just made such a difference in so many kids' lives with the art program.
Still to this day.
And the other thing we did, which was unusual for an elementary school, we had a science lab. And we hired Suzanne Rohr.
Yep.
Can you believe I remember all these names?
Yep.
Suzanne Rohr, she was the part-time science teacher. So starting in kindergarten, the students had an experience in a science lab to whet their curiosity about one of the most fun subjects, which is science, when you do experiments. And so that was one of the hallmarks. 2 of the hallmarks of the school were we had Spanish, we had science, and we had the art program, art and music program. It was fabulous. This is the original, this is the writing, A School for the Future, and this is the strategic plan. Last box. Okay, this is really important. Mr. Cooper loved to read Aesop's fables to the children. So when we see this book, we kind of get a little teary-eyed because he loved reading this book to the kids. Aesop's fables. We knew it back then. Celebration of community. Tuesday, May 21st, 1996.
Oh, this is the naming of the school.
This is naming of the lower school in honor of Mrs. Katina Mitchell. There are more treasures in here than I realized. Okay, that's it. Except we have to go upstairs. I have to show you my one John Cooper School wall. All right, we're gonna go into the bedroom and I'll show you the Cooper School wall.
Oh, Marina, I remember that picture.
This was the picture that was on the front page section the lifestyle section of the Houston Chronicle with the article about the school. And after that ran, that's when the phone started ringing.
John Cooper resisted and resisted and resisted having the school named for him. He was a humble, modest man, and finally the board convinced him that it would really be wonderful for the school. And I think that sold him. Within a year, he looked at me one day and he did say, you know, I've decided I rather like having the school named for me. I rather like it. I mean, just precious. But John and Dorothy were as close a couple as you could imagine. And John faithfully, again, tirelessly worked with myself, and Sam Sugarman was the chairman of the board at the time. We worked every day together, interviewing students, talking to teachers, talking to the PR people, working on furniture, whatever. We were all there together in these little offices at the Woodlands Corp. And John was there every day. And then when the school started, John would come up regularly. And I would frequently have dinner with John and Dorothy. So Dorothy died first. She died first that same year that John did. And most of us figured that John would not survive her for more than 6 months. And we were right. They were inseparable. And so to honor John, and I really think it was Raymond Bailey's idea, we thought, well, let's create a John Cooper Day. And we thought, great, we'll do it the morning before Easter. I think was the day we picked. And John died the day before we got the news that he'd passed away. And so the John Cooper Day was a celebration of his life. Of course, we had, I think, some videos. I guess we did videos back then. I felt his presence. Well, we had never really honored John, and he was not well. And so we thought, you know, this school is named for him, and let's create a day that celebrates him. And so we thought, let's create it while he's still alive. And we did create it while he was still alive. He just didn't quite make it to the finish line. But he's a wonderful man. It's been a long time since I've been to a John Cooper Day. But I think he would be happy to see students participate and students speak eloquently. If there's any singing, he would love that. And he loved poetry. He loved Aesop's fables. And so any poetry that gets read or something like that, he would appreciate that. It's been a long time since I've been to a John Cooper Day. I'm going to start with the memento that's probably the most important. And I was shocked to find out I had a lot of the original copies of the correspondence between myself and President George H. Bush. The story behind that day is the board had reached out to the president, former president, and asked him to speak at the John Cooper School. And he told them no. So at the board meeting, I said, do you mind if I try? He said, sure, go ahead. Adib McHale, he took me to a fundraiser, and President Bush was the, keynote speaker, the guy there. So I wore a red and black suit, looked quite memorable. So I walked up to the president and shook his hand and said, Mr. President, we'd really like for you to speak at the John Cooper School. He said, yeah, they've already asked me. And I said, no. I said, well, I hope you'll reconsider. It's great to meet you. So then I followed up with the best letter I've ever written in my life. Here is his response. Self-typed. That's the original copy, which I'm embarrassed I have not given it back to the...
Typed back then. You think about it.
Dear Marina, you win. A clear-cut knockout victory. I will be there for a baccalaureate event on May 4th, a Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. How do you like that for decisiveness? No research visit, no golf, unfortunately. I'll scoot on out there. We'll do our thing. Then I'll go peacefully back to Houston. You and I can march along as we did 23 years ago. I had been the head prefect at St. John's School and was the speaker at commencement, and the speaker at commencement was George Bush, who was then a congressman. So we had that amazing connection.
Know that.
And then at the end, he says, "Oh yes, your Greek mother sure taught you well." Because in my letter to him, I'd said, "My Greek mother taught me persistence." Here is a picture of him that I had in the files. And then these are pictures from the actual day. And I think, I'm sure the school has many copies of these. Leslie Urano took this, which is just us with George Bush shaking hands, which is a really sweet picture. After he spoke, I think about 30 to 40 people wrote him personal notes thanking him. And he wrote every one of them back. So that's all in this file, which now I bequeath back to you all. There is a poem from a parent and the seniors that year thanking me for getting George Bush. And then there is a extraordinary letter from Alan Dossie, the class of '94, just thanking me for the experience of being at the John Cooper School. It's really precious. You now can give this to Steve Popp, but it's precious because those are the original letters, which the school has probably not seen. But the lower school is named for Katina Mitchell. So who was Katina Mitchell? George Mitchell's mother. Oh yeah, they wanted to name the lower school after me, and I just said no. I was a founding head, but there are other people more important. So I suggested that they name it for George Mitchell's mother, my grandmother, whom I never met, Katina Mitchell. She was devoted to the importance of education and knew that that was the pathway out of poverty, the pathway for a successful life. I think George liked it, and it honored him too. I mean, if it weren't for George, we wouldn't have 40 acres of land in the Woodlands. We wouldn't have the John Cooper School. And he did finally agree to either it was $750 or $1 million toward the capital campaign. So it's a tribute to him, which I felt was a lot more appropriate than a tribute to me. So what's named after me is the Ballantyne Bridge. And that's, to me, more representative of my legacy, which is creating a wonderful pathway, or helping to create a wonderful pathway for students to move from K-12 education to their futures, from curiosity to wisdom. Stick to the key principles. The heart of any great school is the quality of its faculty. And I spent 50% of my time hiring. I mean, really working hard at hiring. And we got some, it was Scott Kampmeyer. Scott Kampmeyer was the history teacher. He was incredible. And Tim Dyke was the English teacher. And these people were magical. And they create life in their classrooms, and the kids, you know, when you walk in a classroom and kids are engaged, there's just nothing quite like that experience, and for the adults watching and for the kids participating. So it's the principle of a quality faculty, it's the principle of community, and it's the principle of adhering to those core values of ordinary courtesies that are sometimes lost in today's world, to inculcate those in these young people of today, and just to be persistent in doing what adheres to the right, to the vision that you know is right. So happy to have you come to our home and our humble abode, and to help me get rid of these archives. My husband's thrilled, and I'm thrilled too to pass them on finally to you, to the school where they belong.